Hey guys, and welcome back to Our Life. It has been a while, but I am here to start a whole new run because I stopped right after the first part of the last one and I want to actually pursue the whole game this time. So, with that said, let's start over. I will say also my old save, as long as all of my other saves from previous runs on my own were deleted upon transferring to this new computer. So, we'll see how this goes. Anyways. I'm not going to go through the explanations for this. What I will do is make my character. And I don't know, maybe they added new customization because it kind of looks like it. I like that one. We're going to go with my favorite, blue eyes. Oh, let's see. See, my go-to kind of avatar is always a long hair girl because that's just my favorite type. So we're gonna just go with that. Let's see. No. Wait. Perfect. I really do, adore everything about this. Oh, that's kind of cool, but not quite. Yeah, that works. Yeah. Yeah. And nope. God, I can't spell. Perfect. Lucky for me as well, there is an Ashe down here. Here it is. Perfect. Wonderful. We're gonna give her some freckles because, they're cute. Slender hands. Let's go glasses this time. I don't know if this is anything like my old one or not, but I think that's cute, especially since she's going to be elementary age, so let's go with a scar on her leg. And some, actually, no freckles on the arms. Dresses, shirts, pants, and skirts, all good. I think necklaces are nice. And I think that's it. We're done. Summer in Sunset Bird was a special time of year. Your usually sleepy town began to bustle. It was a popular tourist destination with people coming from all over to enjoy the beach, the weather, and the relaxation that came with both. The smell of the ocean, crisp and salty, hung in the air, bringing 3 whole months of schoolless vacation with it. During the summer, your moms didn't like you to wander too far outside of your neighborhood, so you knew the area pretty well. That included the people. Families came and went from Sunset Bird, but they mostly stayed and did what your mom called putting down roots. They built businesses, they got to know each other, and they definitely said hello to the nice young kids who waved when passing their stores. Going for a walk around town mostly meant that the familiar, friendly residents waved or asked how your family was, or most often just said hello. You didn't really get why they always had to say hi. They saw you every day, but you nodded back at them anyway. It was the polite thing to do, after all, and your mom said taught you to always be respectful. But today, there was a man sitting on the curb outside your house. He was sitting with his head in his hands, his whole body slumped over, and you wondered if he was even a real person, or a statue that had magically sprung up from the ground overnight. Whoever or whatever he was, you had never seen him before. One thing about knowing everyone in Sunset Bird was that people who you didn't recognize really, really stood out. It was rare for tourists to venture into the residential district, as your moms called it. So, for you, not knowing who a total stranger was set off a lot of red flags. Your mom's had a talk with you and your big sister Lizzie about this kind of situation before. You remember that it's okay to run away if you feel uncomfortable. You don't have to worry about being polite then. You weren't sure about this man yet. Still, you felt a bit scared knowing that he was blocking the way to your front door. You slowed down, your mind racing for ideas on how to get past him unseen, but it was too late to escape. There was a split second where your eyes met, and you took in a shaky breath, your eyes darting to the sky, pretending to stare at a bird who was hovering nearby. Hey! His voice startled you and made you jump, but still you didn't look at him. The bird landed on top of a nearby gatepost, and its black feathers ruffled against the gentle breeze. Trying to keep your eyes on it was tough, especially when the man stood up and started to make his way toward you. Um, Still unsure about him, but willing to be friendly, you offered the stranger a smile. The man gives a grin of his own back. Do you live around here? What's your name? You looked the man up and down, taking in his tan skin and relaxed appearance. At least his clothes were relaxed. The way he was acting wasn't. He had sharks on his shorts and a stingray tattoo, and you wondered if he was obsessed with the ocean or something. While you made your assessment, he looked at you expectantly, waiting for an answer to his question. Did I type in the wrong name? I did. Oh, hold on. We're gonna fix this right now. And we're back with the correct spelling. Whoops. Anyways, moving on. Yeah, I live here. That's great. He looked happy to hear it, giving you a broad smile. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a clean $20 bill. It crinkled in his hand as he held it up to you. Even more confused than before, you looked back at him.
Well...
Could you do me a favor? Nothing bad. Sorry, I should have... Let me start over. He cleared his throat and stood up straighter. From where you were standing, it just made him look creepier. I have a son. His name is Cove. Who's about your age? Cove. That seemed like a strange name for an actual living person to you. But definitely the kind of name someone like this guy would give their kid. We moved in across the street, see? He gestured toward the house that had been empty for a year, his watch catching the late afternoon sunlight and reflecting off the walls. The gigantic for sale sign was finally gone. You must be Ashe, right? I met your moms earlier and they told me you were 8, just like him, so... He shook the $20 bill to bring it back to your attention, a hopeful smile tilting his lips at the corners. Can you try to be friends with the boy? Just give it a chance and you can keep this. He's a good kid. You'll like him.
Do you mind?
But you've got to keep it a secret too, okay? It wouldn't be friendly to say his dad sent you. You kind of felt sorry for Cove. This definitely wasn't the normal way kids made friends. You knew that. What do you say? Want to make a deal? You didn't want the money. No, thank you. Sorry. He deflated enough to notice, but not completely.
Are you sure?
It won't be so bad. Even if it's just for the summer, that'd be enough. That only made this sound more strange to you. Why does it lasting for the summer matter? When it was clear his initial strategy wasn't going to fly, he tucked the bill into a back pocket and changed the request. I get it. You don't have to. Would you be comfortable with he and I coming by for a normal visit? No money involved. Okay, you can do that. His smile got bigger again. His eyes crinkled at the sides. I'll bring him by tomorrow. I wanted him to meet and greet with the neighbors today, but... well, I don't know where he's gotten off to. He laughed when he said that, but with the way his face looked, you thought he actually wanted to cry. If you see him, can you tell him to come on home? He's got a pink cast and glasses. You can't miss it. I can try. You nodded, not totally certain that you'd find Cove, but willing to look. The man smiled and reached out to pat you on the head, paused before doing so, and then pulled his hand away instead. Your moms are already checking around for me. Such a thoughtful group you are. Now I better go look too. Can't put everyone else to work while I keep sitting here. I thought he might come back and... That's not what's important. I have to go. Thanks again, Ashe. So much. He jogged off down the street without another word. You decided to check the hills behind your house. First sight. The chirping of crickets in the tall grass greeted you, quiet and familiar. From the top of the hill you could see the ocean. As you walked, you listened to the crash of the waves on the shore and the seagulls squawking as they sailed down for the night. You loved to hear stories about the sea, about the merfolk and sea serpents you imagined living far beneath the waves. Sometimes you could almost convince yourself you had seen the flash of a shiny mermaid's tail in the distance. You took in a deep breath. You wanted to try to relax and couldn't. You weren't sure what, but something told you that you weren't alone, so you glanced around. There was a boy sitting at the top of one hill, almost completely hidden within the long grass and white flowers surrounding him. His head was buried in his knees, staring ahead by himself. For whatever reason, probably just that he wasn't paying attention, he hadn't noticed you yet. You watched him a minute longer, feeling a little bit like you'd found a deer in the wild. Though deer didn't have green hair. But this new boy did. You watched as it fluttered softly around his face in the breeze. After a few more seconds, you took a step forward, then another, and then he glanced your way. His aquamarine eyes reflected the light of the moon. You stopped, raising a hand to acknowledge him and show you weren't scary. Are you lost? With a start, he jumped to his feet, his hands balling into fists at his sides. He didn't say anything, just stared at you in a strange way. He'd been crying. There were traces of tears on his cheeks and his knees, soaking the hem of his shorts, and his eyes were still shining with a few more. You'd obviously caught him off guard. His pink cast seemed to glow in the twilight, though when he caught you staring at it, he hid his arm behind his back. Something the man earlier had said stuck out to you. Cove? Eyes wide, he studied you. How'd you know that? I met your dad.
Oh.
So, is this your hill? He gestured with his uninjured arm to the patch of grass surrounding you, his face falling at the prospect. I can leave if it is. You can't own a hill. Why not? How could you? You just do. I had a hill back home. Well, this still isn't mine. Oh. He sat back down with a thump, resting his chin on his knees again. Curious about the strange new boy with the odd dad, you sat on the patch of grass next to him. The pure white flowers that covered this hill rocked back and forth gently as the stars twinkled above. The way they dotted the sky made them seem like flowers too. The night wind was cool as it traveled over the ocean and up the hill, chasing away the heat from the afternoon sun. Why are you here? A quiet hiccup escaped Cove as soon as you asked the question. Almost like they'd never stopped, his tears started up again with a vengeance. My parents, they don't want to live together with me anymore. The tears fell fast and heavy over his flushed cheeks, sticking in his dark lashes. My mom made my dad leave and he took me with him, and now we have a house here and I want to go home. The outburst took you off guard. By the time he was done wailing, Cove's chest was heaving with exhaustion. He sniffled and removed his glasses, wiping at his eyes with the back of his hand before he put them back on again. I hate this place. I want my real life back. I want my mom. You'll like it here. You just have to get used to it. He slipped his hands underneath his glasses and pressed his fingers against his eyelids. Cove wound himself up again for another long crying fit. Sunset Bird was a nice place to live. It had a beach, playgrounds, a good school. At least you thought so. But from way off in the distance, you heard your parents. Ashe!
Cove?
Kids, where did you go? Cove looked at you, tears still clinging to his cheeks. Don't tell them we're here.
I want to go home.
I don't want to go back to that house. It'll be okay. You were struck by a sudden need to reassure Cove. It's not going to be all fun, but isn't he your family too? Yeah, I guess. Then you can count on him when you really, really need him. You shot him a grin and pushed yourself to your feet. Slowly, Cove stood up with you, still looking a little reluctant. His dad's voice rang out again. Cove, can you hear me? He looked toward the sound of his dad's voice, silent, then turned away while rubbing his not bandaged arm.
Sorry.
I still don't want to go. You waited silently with him. Yeah, I get it. You do? Before you could answer, you heard Cove's dad even closer than before. There you are, bud. The trio of parents appeared over the curve of the hill. Instantly, all their eyes landed on you, and they rushed over. Both of your moms were at your side in a split second, faces filled with worry. Ashe, you're here after all. We had been at the park to check for Cove and then heard what happened earlier when you met the new neighbor. I thought you might have gone off further away. Cove didn't want to go home just yet. Mommy gave Cove a small smile and then she turned back to you. Thank God you're both fine. Were you two having fun out here? You looked over at Cove, who was wiggling against his dad's tight hug and pushing at his arms. Yeah, I like him. You nodded, smiling slightly. Finally letting go of his squirming, scowling son, Cove's dad turned to the three of you.
That's a relief.
Thanks very much for finding him. I really don't know this neighborhood. Good thing Ashe knows this whole area so well. Absolutely. We should be getting home now. It's been a long day for us all. Say goodbye, Cove.
Bye.
The two of them walked off into the darkness, heading toward the neighborhood. You watched Cove's bright pink cast until it disappeared. Tell you what, we'll have a proper play date tomorrow, okay? Your new friend's dad wanted to bring him by to see you and Lizzie. How does that sound? Sure, can I show him my stuff? Then okay. Both of your moms laughed, the sounds overlapping into a warm, familiar chorus. Mommy put her arm around your shoulder and led you towards the path. Satisfied and more than a little ready to go to bed after your long, exciting day, you followed them home. Alright. Neat. I think we're going to be fond, although Crush would be good, but I think fond and nervous. It's my favorite. Let's go. Yes. At the breakfast table the next morning, you finished your food faster than usual. Your sister Lizzie had run out earlier to go play, but you'd stayed put. Today, just like your moms had promised, Cove was coming over to hang out. Excited to see your new friend again, Ashe? You nodded, smiling slightly.
How sweet.
I'm so happy he moved in.
Okay.
With that said, are you done with your breakfast? Your bowl was entirely empty, so you nodded. Mm-hmm. Good job. He should be here soon. Cleanup began, and then on cue, there was a knock. It was hesitant, like the person wasn't sure they were in the right place. Still loud, though. We need to get a more obvious doorbell. I know. Ashe, could you get it? Wiggling out of your chair without really pushing it back, you made your way to the door. Hey, Corinthos family. Thanks for having us. Mr. Holden, as your moms had called him, and his son were here. Cove looked different in the bright lighting of your living room, and when he wasn't crying. With his dad standing in front of him and Mom and Mommy behind you, you and Cove looked at each other. Pleased to see your new friend again, you smiled at him. He smiled back with some hesitation. Do you want to see my room?
Okay. Take care.
Let us know if you need anything, you two. Have fun, kids.
See you.
See you later, son. Play nice. You led him to your room, puffing out your chest a little bit at the sight of your treasures. There were lots of stuffed animals, a cool bed, and a window to look out. It was a great room. You hadn't had anyone to show it to in a while, but you were really proud of it. He leaned in a little closer to one of your drawings in the wall. I like this. I drew that. Cool. You smiled at him. You were proud of that particular piece of art, and you were glad he noticed it. He turned to look around the room a little more, studying the books on your desk and the pictures on the walls. You were glad for the company. It was nice to have someone new to play with. Then his eyes landed on the tiny box of beach things you'd collected, tucked away by your door. He took a step towards it before hesitating and pointing at it instead. What's that? A hoard of stuff I found on the beach.
Oh.
Do you have any driftwood in there? Dragging the box into the middle of the room, you and Cove flopped down next to it. Yeah. You gestured to a piece at the bottom, still covered with specks of sand.
Neat.
This is a good collection. You got the sense from the tone of his voice that he wasn't just saying it to be nice, or to be like Shiloh. He actually meant it. Ah! Shiloh's coming over. Shiloh? My sister's friend. He wants to, meet you. Do I have to see him? It'll be okay, I think. Here, I found the shell on a log, and... You pulled out seashell after seashell, explaining where you'd gotten each one and holding them up against the light. There were big ones, small ones, pink, purple, and orange. Most of them you'd washed off in the bathroom sink when you brought them home, cleaning off the sand. The collection was so huge and varied that you had lots of funny stories to tell for all of them. Apparently fascinated, either by the stories or by the shells themselves, Cove listened with what looked like the full force of his attention. Like when you almost got pinched by a hermit crab while searching for shells, and after watching him scuttle back into the ocean, you found another empty shell that was almost a twin to his home. It was a new experience to be the center of such dedicated focus. But Cove hadn't been mean to you, so you didn't mind. You smiled at him every now and then, while showing him your collection. "Kids, come down to the living room." You could tell the idea was making him unhappy, but Mommy wasn't giving you much of a chance to hang around. Cove hadn't been like this meeting you. You guessed it was because he thinks you found each other by accident, not that a parent made it happen. Mr. Holden must be right that telling Cove his dad was part of that would be a bad idea. Before you knew it, you'd both been escorted downstairs and deposited in the living room, ready for Sheila's visit. The two of you sat side by side on the floor of your home's entryway. "I brought this box of shells. I want to keep looking at them." "Okay, but be careful." "I will." You weren't sure if you could trust someone else with your treasures yet, so you stayed next to him while he opened the lid and peered inside. Cove reached in and pulled out a big orange shell. "Oh!" Like he hadn't spoken loud yet, he turned to you and held it up, his eyes shining. "I think this one is the best of them." "That's my favorite too." Cove smiled at you and you both admired the shell together. It was a giant conch with shades of dark and light orange. If you held it to your ear, you could practically hear the ocean. "I found that one last summer when we went to the beach on a picnic." The two of you were still sitting on the floor looking through your collection of beach findings when the doorbell finally rang. Cove jumped, startled by the sound. Since the person hadn't knocked, you figured it was probably Shiloh. He knew where to look for that. "Lizzie's friend?" You nodded, but that didn't seem to make Cove feel any better. It was already obvious that Cove didn't hide his feelings well. You could tell what he was thinking right away. "This isn't a good idea." "I'm sorry. There's nowhere to go. He's at our only door, and if you go upstairs, he'll find you." Cove glanced around the room, his eyes wide, and finally paused with his gaze locked on the back of the house. "I can go out the window." He was already walking towards it. Scrambling to think of something to say, you stepped forward, then paused. "I'll come with you. Hurry, they'll see where we're going." He glanced back at you and then nodded. The two of you made your way to the window together. It wasn't much of a distance to clamber out, but by the time you landed gently in the bushes, you looked up to see that Cove was already taking off away from the house. At that speed, you weren't sure if you could go fast enough to reach him. Hey, wait up!" You ran as fast as your legs would take you, grass whipping around your ankles as you did so. Cautiously, Cove slowed to a halt and looked back at you. "Where are you going?" "I don't know. Somewhere else. I just don't want to see... Ashe!" You looked back and saw Sheila huffing down the hill after you, the backpack he clutched bouncing all around along the way. "What are you doing? Can I come?" He must have seen you leaving out the window and followed behind.
Hi.
"Are you Cove?"
Yeah.
"Yeah." "I'm Sheila." "Okay." "Yep. Are we going back, or are we going to play outside?" Sheila's eyes moved between you and Cove. The smile remained strong on his face. It got a tiny frown from Cove in response. You were just grateful he hadn't asked why you had been running away. "Inside. We left the box on the floor." "Yeah, I want to check. I hope Mommy didn't move them."
Okay.
With Sheila trailing behind, you and Cove head back towards the house. The plan for the afternoon, at least as far as you were concerned, was to sit and look at the beach things some more. You weren't really in the mood to do much of anything else, especially if Cove was having fun. You held out a recent find to him, a scallop shell that had washed up on shore. "It's a pretty color, kind of like my cast." The beautiful glittering pink did look a little bit like the wrap around his arm. "Pink's a nice color." "Okay."
Oh?
"Is it your favorite?" "Not really." "What is?" "Maybe green, or blue. It might be yellow." "Oh, those are all cool."
I guess.
I like those colors too." "Awesome." Both of them smiled. Like usual, it didn't take long for Shiloh to get fidgety. Lizzie was his favorite. Without her around, Shiloh didn't seem to know what to do with himself. And Cove wasn't like your sister. He wasn't that much like you, either. "Is Lizzie coming back?" "Don't know."
Aw.
"Where'd she go?" "I think she's at the beach, probably." "Is she playing at her park?" Cove's eyes lit up at the mention of the park, and he looked towards you. "There's a park?" Yeah, but it's old. Can you show me? I want to go. He started getting up before you had even answered, and Shiloh jumped up beside him in excitement. Really? You do too, right, Ash? The park is fun. Park's pretty great.
Yeah.
It's right at the beach. There's lots of fun There's lots of fun stuff to do. And lots of sand. It has a jungle gym and a bunch of swings. That sounds like it could be cool. So, are we going to find Lizzie? I don't know. I never really wanted to see her. I just want to check the park out. Adrift without any direction, Sheila finally turned to you. Okay. He perked up. Both boys wanted to go. It was only fair. After getting permission from your moms, the three of you were ready to head out. It was a short walk to the park. Lizzie had convinced your moms that it was so short she should always be allowed to walk there by herself. When you found her, she was hanging on the jungle gym, swinging back and forth. Hey, Lizzie. Her face lit up when she saw you, her big brown eyes going wide. Ash! Shiloh! Hi. She dropped to the ground and landed with a soft thud in the sand. In a split second, Shiloh had abandoned you two and scrambled over to stand by her. You were used to being left out when it was just the three of you, but now Cove was here. You wondered if he would leave too. Who's that? It's Cove. He's new.
Hi.
I remember. Hi, Cove. Welcome to my park. Nobody ever comes to play here, so this is where we get together. She gestured wildly with her arms as if to present the area to the newcomer. Without interrupting Lizzie's speech, Cove whispered in your ear, quiet enough that the others wouldn't overhear. I thought kids couldn't own places like parks or hills. You couldn't help but laugh a tiny bit. While Lizzie continued talking, you took the chance to kick off your shoes and wriggle your toes through the warm sand. Nice, huh? In this neighborhood, I'm the one who comes up with the ideas. You are?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I am. Who else could handle the job? Lizzie is the oldest. By a lot. My mom said you're Ash's age. Yeah. Thought so. I'm still the only one in this group with double digits. What about other kids? Other kids? There aren't any. We're the only kids here, and Sheila was just visiting from another place. Not even tourists really bring their kids here. This is the land of ancients. Be careful that the oldies don't try to steal your youth.
Oh.
For a second, it looked like he might cry again. But something in his eyes shifted and he looked back at Lizzie. What kind of old people? Like moms and dads or grandparents? Grandparents who don't have kids. They hate kids. Why? We haven't done anything. Stop saying stuff like that. You're gonna upset him. You interjected quickly, hoping Cove wouldn't start crying again. He sniffled, his forehead creasing with worry. Lizzie was staring Cove down, but Cove wasn't even looking at her. He didn't seem to care that she was there. He went into his own head. Sheila was the next one to speak, completely unaware of the situation. I met Lizzie and Ash in school. You'll see tons of kids there when summer's over. I don't want to go to a new school. I don't want summer to end. Sheila looked down to the dirt. He hasn't had much luck striking up conversations with Cove. I like summer vacation a lot too. All the building tension in the air suddenly vanished when Lizzie laughed. At Sheila's discomfort at how weird she thought Cove was, or at something else entirely you didn't really know. But she laughed, her face scrunching up. Oh, welcome to Sunset Bird, Cove. Take a seat, put up your feet, and get used to it. Ugh. You offered him a small smile, and that, at least, looked to reassure him some. For the rest of the summer, Cove was always there. You saw him more often than Shiloh, and on some days, when she was in a bad mood or busy, you even saw him more than Lizzie. He became a staple of your everyday life, the way sun and lunch and the beach were. During your first summer together, you really liked Cove. He was a fun person to play with, and he seemed to like playing with you too. Of course, that was only the start of things. Alright, that's a good place to end this part for now. We'll start picking them up section by section. Thank you guys so much for coming around, and I'll see you in the next video.